So now I'm going to talk through my intense days, my 3 days that I have. So I have my Excel day, I have my Max V day, and I have my Excel Plus day. Okay, so I have my 3 days here. So each day that I go through is always going to start the same with prehab. Okay, so on my Excel day, I know my prehab wise that I should probably focus on hips plus hip extension. I need to open up ankle. I need to work on stability. So what I'm trying to do in my prehab is look at what are the qualities that I'm going to see show up later in my session, and what can I open up or activate to get them ready for that. So I'm going to typically go through some type of banded distraction to get more flexibility. I'll go through some mobility, probably moving, so not a ton of static. And I'll go through some stability and activation exercises to get them right. Okay. Then I know my warm-up is next. Our warm-up is pretty standard across the board. There's 3 components that I'll go through. So I'll have a thermogenic. So that thermogenic will be like a jog, a back pedal, a shuffle, karaoke, something to elevate the body temperature and just get them moving, get them sweating. The next, I'll go ground mobility. So I know my ground mobility, it's a little bit more dynamic than my prehab section, a little bit less individualized, and my ground mobility is just gonna really open me up. So this might be rolling V's, might be hamstring swings, might be adductor rock. We're gonna kind of focus on things we're gonna see later in the session. Next is going to be walking mobility. So this would be high knee pulls, lunges, side lunges, straight leg kicks, all those types of exercises. Okay, after this, I'm going to go straight into a neural activation. So something that's going to turn my brain on. So maybe it's pogos, maybe it's fast ankling, but something that's going to really get me to turn on my nervous system, get me going, get me really awake. I might be asleep all the way up into this point. Let's get awake. Let's get going. Then from neural activation, we're going to go into some type of plyo. So my plyo, when I talk about neural activation, I'm talking about low level, fire the nervous system. When I go to plyo, now we're talking about a little bit more intensity, right? So my intensity goes from low to high as I go, okay? So when I go to plyo, this might be power skips, a couple broad jumps, a couple vertical jumps, just to get me going, right? Now I know that's done. Next part I'm gonna go into is my vertical series. So in my vertical series, I know on my acceleration day, my emphasis is hip flexion and extension, torso projection, hip projection. Okay, cool. What can I do in a warm-up that's gonna mimic these activities? So I'll do an A walk. That'll typically help me teach like basic posture, hip flexion, where to place the foot. I'll go to a march. That's gonna teach me how to drive down using that glute. We'll do skips, switches, triples. Switches, skips, and triples are gonna help me. Just that firing pattern of hip flexion and extension, and just driving that hip and keeping it strong in those phases. Okay, so this is just basic. I'm gonna do a lot of talking here. I might say, hey guys, let's start over. Let's walk through. Let's be cerebral on these exercises. Because as they go in more complex exercises, I'm gonna stop talking as much, all right? So vertical. Now I'm gonna move right from vertical to horizontal. So what I wanna emphasize on horizontal is the same cues that I used here. So if I'm saying drive down into the ground with as much power as possible from the glute, align your torso, I'm gonna take those same concepts from vertical and I'm gonna put them horizontal. So what I mean by horizontal is, we're doing things more specific to the angle of acceleration. So if I look at the long axis of the body, head to heel, this right here to me is the long axis from heel to head. I'm working on torso alignment in that phase there. So in that distance, right? So there's a couple things I'll do. I might do resisted, a march, okay, staple. Depending on where I'm at in the phase, it might just be a band or it might be 50% body weight on a sled, okay? Doesn't matter. I just want to get some resisted A marches, get that torso alignment. This could also be a wall march. Okay, so all I'm working on is that long axis of the body, okay? And this can progress. I'll typically progress in intensity and I'll go to a bound. All right, so now what I'm doing is I'm teaching the body how to flex and extend rapidly and fast, okay? So here's my template, all right? So before I even start sprinting, here's where I get to, okay? Now from horizontal, I'm gonna look at how do I get my body, I worked on the long axis. This is great. Like I've taught my body the posture and position, but now I need to make it more specific to sprinting, all right? So this is where transfer exercises come into play. So depending on what I'm doing for the day, this block here and transfer is going to be my main basis of teaching.